I would recommend that if you haven't yet watched the video from last week on the fleet battle system that I created, you go and check that one out first before watching this video. It will make it a lot easier to understand. Welcome to Off My Bridge. My name is Guy, and although you can't see me, I felt it would be best to do this demonstration of the mass fleet battle system that I created for Star Trek Adventures 2, 2nd edition, because it makes it clean and clear and concise, and there you go. Also, I need a haircut. Let's jump straight into it. Before we do, remember to hit that like button, the bell button to be reminded about when episodes are coming out, or even the subscribe button if you're not yet a subscriber. It makes me feel all warm and mushy inside. On to the battle. I am pitching a fleet of Federation ships versus a Romulan invasion fleet. Worst case scenario for the Federation. And so let's build our fleets. The Federation fleet consists of 10 Miranda-class ships, 5 California-class ships, 4 Excelsior-class ships, and 2 Galaxy-class ships. This altercation must be taking place somewhere in the 2370s, somewhere around there. That gives us a grand total of 21 ships in the Federation fleet, and our very first step is to take all of the scales of each of those ships and combine them together. And that gives us a grand total of 82 in total. We then need to get the average scale for the fleet. So we take the 82, we divide it by 21, and that gives us 3.999999999, or whatever it is, or rounding up, a total average scale of 4. Now, this we know translates into our fleet impact value. So this fleet has an impact value of 4. The difficulty to hit this fleet would be a difficulty of 2 because there's 21 ships. The resistance of this fleet would be the impact value divided by 3. So that would be an impact of 1, 4 divided by 3. And the combat tracker would be 12 long. That's 4 times 3. So that's our Federation fleet. Very respectable. Thank you very much. The Romulan war fleet, on the other hand, it has less ships. 6 Diderix-class war vessels, 6 Romulan transports. And the Romulan transports, we don't have the stats for, but I said, you know what, we're going to make them scale 3, and the Diderix warships are scale 7. So that gives us a grand total of 12 ships with a grand total scale of 60. 60 divided by 12 gives us a very, very respectable 5 for our average fleet scale and an impact value of 5. That's going to change a lot of things, which is really cool. We then have a difficulty of 3 because it's such a small fleet, there's only 12 of them. Their resistance would be 2 because it's 5 divided by 3, which would be 1.6, so we round up. And the combat tracker would be 15, 5 times 3. On paper, the Romulan fleet is immediately superior to the Federation fleet. Higher difficulty number, bigger impact, more resistance, and a longer combat tracker. This puts the Romulans at a huge advantage, even though they don't have as many ships. So now we need to add in those traits. Let us say that this invasion is happening within a nebula. And the Federation are very familiar with this nebula. They have done some scans or some probes. You've even run an adventure where the crew, the PCs, had to go out and actually scan this nebula, and maybe they found the Romulan invasion fleet, which is precipitating this entire battle. So they have the trait known space. That increases their resistance to a whopping 2. So that's really useful, especially when fighting against Romulan ships. The Romulans have got cloaked ships. The Romulans love their cloaks, so that gives them +3 impact for the next 2 rounds of combat. Thereafter, it's mitigated. But they do also have a new trait, which I had to add in after last week's video, thanks to some of you pointing out going, but what about non-combat ships? Non-combat ships being things like transports, cargo carriers, civilian vessels. And so I created the trait non-combat ships. And what non-combat ships does is it reduces the difficulty number to hit of the fleet. So the Romulan fleet goes from 3 down to 2, and it reduces the impact of the fleet from the 5 down to 4. And the reason for this is cargo ships are usually not very maneuverable, and they're definitely not heavily armed. So now the Romulans and the Federation are a little bit closer in terms of their numbers. They're not not looking terrible on either side. This could go either way. And so battle begins. Our Federation crew get to act first, and the captain is going to take the first turn, and using control plus command, he is going to order the fleet to go defensive on this one. He is ordering a defensive screen. He knows the Romulans have got a significant advantage with their cloaking technology. He wants to increase their resistance as much as possible. The resistance is 2. This order will increase the resistance to 3. The Romulans, on the other hand, want to get rid of this Federation fleet as fast as possible. They don't care about casualties, they just want to get their troop transports through the nebula and into Federation space, and so they are going to order a direct assault. This gives them +2 impact and -1 to their resistance, dropping that down to 1. Their impact is now 5 again. Time for rolls, and the captain of the Federation ship rolls and gets a beautiful 3 successes. They only needed 2 successes to hit the Romulan invasion fleet, and so they score their impact. Their impact is 4. The Romulan resistance is 1, as of the orders the Romulans gave, so that means the Romulans are down 3 on their combat tracker. It is now the Romulans' turn to return fire. The Romulan commander rolls and gets 2 successes. They only needed 1 to hit the Federation fleet, and so their impact goes through. Now their impact, as it currently stands, is 4 plus 3 from the cloaked ships, plus 2 from the Order direct assault. This means they are sitting on a staggering 9 impact. The Federation resistance is 3. So the Federation fleet suffers 6 points of impact. Now things get a little bit more complicated for the Federation fleet. They have got to their first breakthrough on their combat tracker, and what that means is, and this is a new rule that I added again thanks to your feedback from last week, when the fleet gets to the first breakthrough point, they start to suffer consequences. And in this case, they suffer a -1 to their resistance. So their resistance drops from a standard 2 down to a 1. This is not good for the Federation fleet at all. Those Romulans, with another good hit, could potentially just punch their way through this fleet and get through. Now, I would always suggest when you are running these that once you've run the numbers, which I'm not doing very quickly here because I'm explaining everything, you describe the outcome of the battle. Helping you to describe the outcome of the battle is the outcome table, and the Federation and the Romulans both need to roll on this table. The Federation rolls first, and they get a 14. The PC ship has been hit and suffers a hull breach. Well, we'll deal with that as you normally would on the PC's next turn. Remember, the PCs can still take all of the actions and things that they want to do. You should also be running a battle between a PC ship and, say, a Romulan warbird. If you so choose, you can add that in too, if that's part of your narrative. But now they've suffered a breach, and so they will have to take care of that breach on their next turn as they normally would. The Romulans roll, and the Romulans have rolled a 4. The enemy fleet may have firepower, but have made a tactical error. Your impact is +1. Wow. Okay, so the Romulans have got an additional +1 for next round. That puts their base value on 5 again, +3 for cloaked ships. That's on 8. They could potentially win this next round. Now, how do you describe this? How do you then take this? Well, as far as I can say, it would be the Federation with the PC's ship leading the charge, takes the brunt of the Romulan assault, and several green torpedoes slam into the PC's ship, disabling systems, rocking the ship from side to side as the various other warbirds target the other ships, causing chaos and pandemonium from the sheer firepower of the Romulans. The determination of the Romulan transports to press forward is impressive. We now go to round 2, and here the Federation are going to need to think very carefully about what they are doing. They could go with support ships, the order which would restore some of their combat tracker back into position, or they could go with defensive screen, which would increase their resistance overall. It is a tough decision that they need to make. Ultimately, they could also withdraw from the battlefield, but in this situation, because the Romulans are threatening an invasion, I feel that the Federation would stay right where they are. As a result, the captain has decided he is going to hope that their reduced resistance, because the resistance is only 1 at this moment, he's not counting on that being successful. Instead, he is going to adopt the support ships rule, which restores fleet impact value, so 4, worth, back to the combat tracker minus the fleet resistance, which is currently only 1. So they're restoring 3 to that tracker. And that's what he's going to do. So they go from 6 to 9 points. This will also increase their resistance by 1 because they're no longer at that breakthrough point. So they lose that penalty. Really useful in this battle. The Romulan war fleet, on the other hand, are just riding high on everything at the moment. They've got base 5 impact. They are once again going to go for this direct assault. The Federation, yes, they might do 4 points of damage to them, but they can't actually get through and destroy the fleet in this round. The Romulans are very, very arrogant at this point. So they have a grand total impact of 8 because they're still under cloak. They're going to go for direct assault, which would put their impact at 10. At 10. That is huge, absolutely huge. The best the Federation can hope to do is to resist 2 of that, which would be 8. That's insane. Let's see what happens. The Federation get to roll. This time it is the helmsman, and the helmsman is going to go with daring and con. And let's see what the helmsman gets. The helmsman gets 2 successes, just enough to hit the Romulan fleet. The Romulans currently have a resistance of 1 because of their direct assault order, and so they suffer another 3 points of impact. That doesn't put them at the halfway point yet. That doesn't put them at the halfway point. They're still okay. This is not looking good for the Federation. The Romulans now get to roll, and they make their roll, and they don't get any successes at all. A 17 and an 18. Neither of those are going to help at all. This is a bleak day for the Romulans. The Federation ships, how do we play this? Remember, we first need to go to the outcome for the Romulans. The outcome being a 17. A random ship has been disabled and will need major repairs. So one of those Romulan ships has been disabled. And I think for dramatic purposes, we're going to say that it's one of the Romulan transports has been disabled. That would be the priority, I feel, of this fleet's engagement. And so the PC's ship is doing whatever the PC's ship is doing, and a report comes through that one of the Romulan transports is leaking plasma from its aft manifold and has had to turn back, heading towards Romulan space. There's a cheer as the Federation have turned back one of the 6 transports. Round 3. Things have changed. The Romulans no longer have the trait cloaked ships. They are now in full-on battle, and so that's going to help the Federation if they can hold on. If they can hold on. They can't rely on the Romulans missing every single time. The Federation are going to stick with their plan of trying to restore their fleet integrity as much as possible, just relying on chipping away at the Romulans. Slow and steady wins the race. So they are going to go once again with support ships. They're going to restore, this time not 3, they're going to restore 2 onto their combat tracker. It doesn't sound like a lot, but it adds up. Look at that, back to 11. They barely scratched at this point. The Romulans are still trying to get through. They are still arrogant. They still believe they can win this one. Even with their base impact being 4, equal to the Federation, they believe that they can force the Federation's hand. It's easier to hit, so they're going to go for another direct assault, plus 2 impact, minus 1 resistance. The Federation get to roll. This time it is the Chief Science Officer. And the Chief Science Officer is going to make their roll. They're going to use Reason plus Science. And let's see what they get. They get a staggering 4 successes. So they can bank that momentum. They can use that momentum as they like. And they're actually going to use that momentum. They're going to spend that momentum and increase their impact. They're going to spend that momentum and increase that impact by 1. So their impact is 5. The Romulan resistance is only 1, which means that the Federation score 4 impact thanks to spending that extra momentum. That puts the Romulans in a pretty tricky situation. They only have 5 points left on their combat tracker. That means that they have reached their first breakthrough point and are about to breach their second one. The first breakthrough point, their resistance goes down by 1. Now the Romulans are in trouble, but they've already committed to their direct assault. And so they get to roll, and oh boy, look at that. We've got a 1 and a 7, so that's 1 critical success and a success on the 7. And that means their impact of 6 becomes an impact of 7. They're going to spend that threat straight away. Impact of 7. The Federation have got a resistance of 2. That means the Federation are taking 5 points of damage. The Federation have now breached once again that first threshold. Their resistance has dropped to 1. This is still anybody's fight, folks. Both fleets have to make a roll on the outcome table, and the Federation have rolled a 7, no significant effect. The Romulans have rolled a 7, no significant effect. The fleets are locked in battle. There is tremendous firepower being poured out onto the Federation shields, which are buckling. There are ships reporting casualties across the board. The Romulans are holding true, but there are significant signs of damage to the Romulan warbirds, which are trying to protect those transports. Several of the transports have taken significant damage and have been slowed in their approach. Round number 4. The Federation have to decide, do they want to risk everything and just punch it out with the Romulans? Their resistance is only 1, their impact is 4. If they increase their impact to 6, they would be able to take out the fleet. They would be able to defeat the Romulans. At the same time, the Romulans, as it stands, if they take a defensive order, will not be able to take out the Federation. So it depends on who is more desperate. Who is willing to play chicken? This now is the order that must be given, and it falls to the security officer of the PCs to make this decision. Security officer is looking at it. They're using control plus security. They've got a very good chance of hitting. They're going to go with a direct assault. They are going to go with a direct assault, finish this once and for all. Whether that's the right call or not, only time will tell. The Romulans have realized that they are in a precarious situation here. They are going to go with evasive deployment. +1 to the difficulty to hit them, but -1 to their own impact. They're hoping to be able to outlast the Federation on this one. Time for the rolls. Security officer steps up, targets the lead Romulan warbird, and fires. And scores 3 successes. The Romulan difficulty was 2, but because they anticipated a direct assault for the Federation and took the evasive deployment, their difficulty number increased to 3. Thankfully, the security officer, however, got 3 successes. So no additional bonus momentum, but it was there. They get to do exactly what they wanted to do. That's an impact of 6 on the Romulan fleet. The Romulan resistance is currently 1, so that would be 5 damage to the Romulan combat tracker, which would reduce the Romulans to 0. That means the fleet has been defeated. But these turns happen simultaneously. So we have to see what happens when the Romulan fleet returns fire. The Romulans return fire. They roll 2d20. That's all that they needed to hit the Federation fleet, but they have -1 impact. So their impact is only 3. This puts the Federation at their second breakthrough point. So their fleet is now in a desperate situation. They have +1 to their impact, but -1 to their difficulty. But it doesn't matter. The Romulan fleet has been defeated. Now we know that the Federation are not going to destroy the Romulan ships. They are going to try to dissuade the Romulans from crossing those borders. And in true Romulan style, the Romulan warbirds will turn tail, vaporize the Romulan transports, and then hive off into Empire space, leaving the Federation behind to look for survivors as well as to tend to their own. So here you can see that just by choosing the right orders And by having some lucky rolls, one fleet can prevail over a stronger fleet with luck. Those Romulans, however, could have destroyed the Federation fleet on turn 2 if they hadn't missed. So a very, very close battle, with some very tense moments in terms of the orders that were chosen. That is the example of how Fleet Battles works. I hope that you have enjoyed this example and that you realize that your voice has impact. You are here to really help me make a better system that we can all enjoy and have access to. So this updated version of the rules will be added to the Patreon for this month, as well as some other cool and fun, exciting stuff. So watch out for that. Patreon.com/GreatGameMaster if you wanted to join that Patreon. Remember, financial security before gaming, as always. Massive thank you to all of you for watching this video and for supporting the channel. I really do appreciate it. And for the conversations that we have. I just love the conversations that are going around. And next week, we will then see what the first officer has to say for themselves as we look into just what does a first officer actually do on a starship. Until next time, I wish you long life and happy gaming.